Hey everyone, welcome to Recruiting Connections with me, Chris Murdock. Today's guest is Brian Fink. I'll let Brian Fink introduce himself. So Brian, please introduce yourself, and then we'll just jump right into the conversation.
Hey, my name is Brian Fink. I'm 5'10". I'm weighing in at 255 pounds. I am the contender from McAfee Security, where I'm a talent acquisition partner that really likes to bring people together to do epic things and defend the internet. Was that what you were looking for, Chris?
Actually, now I'm asking ask you to like body slam somebody or jump from the high ropes, but that's great. So Brian, what we're going to talk about today is something that when we were at SourceCon recently,
What a
somebody
great event, right? I
I
mean,
know.
like,
It was
like,
nerd prom. It was recruitment nerd prom. It was amazing. So somebody said something, and I can't remember who said it. Somebody asked the question, is Chat GPT and AI going to replace recruiters? And somebody said no. Recruiters who use AI and tools like Chat GPT are going to replace those that don't adopt the technology. How do you feel about that statement?
I think that's a pretty accurate statement. I look at Ryan Holiday and Tim Ferriss. They've done Ryan Holiday is a writer, Tim Ferriss is a podcaster who deconstructs world-class performers. And they both have I look to them, they both have said that what's going to happen is AI, and particularly generative AI, the chat GPTs of the world, that what they're going to do is they're going to actually allow us to play at a higher level, at a better level, that they're going to sharpen the spear, if you will. I'm seeing a little bit of the sharpening of the spear, but I'm also seeing some of the dulling of the spear. So I think it takes somebody who has that curious mind to really drive and to determine what they're going to use, when they're going to use it, and how they're going to use it, Chris.
And it's really interesting that you mentioned that. So when I got into recruiting in the dark ages, 1999.
Fax machine,
Yeah.
baby, right here.
Yeah, and I was handed a directory and a ruler. And then from that we went to CD-ROM, and from that to just basic queries on the internet before Google existed. And then you got other tools. What happened every time there's been a shift in recruitment and HR technology, it's given me more and more opportunity to engage with the candidates and the clients. So it used to
100%.
take forever to generate a list of 100 people who were even remotely qualified. Now I can create a targeted list of candidates within 5 to 20 minutes, and then I get to spend the rest of the day trying to engage with them. I get to spend more time on that. So it is freeing me up, because these are like Seek Out, Hire Easy. These are AI enabled resources that are giving me that opportunity to spend more time customizing my email messages, even using Chat GPT to create better messaging. But it gives me more time to hone my engagement skills.
All right, so I completely agree with you. I think that if you're talking about those routine tasks and really getting down into the nitty-gritty of who you're talking to and what you're talking to them about, and really helping to be a partner to the candidate, not just the organization, but a
Yep.
partner to the candidate to help them take their career to the next level, spot on. You mentioned some great tools like Hire Easy or Seek Out. As long as we're talking about generative AI, have you looked at Juicebox?
No, let's talk. Tell me about this. And you also mentioned Notion in our previous
Little
exchange.
exchange, right? So juicebox.work, they have an engine that is called People GPT. And the best way to explain it is you just say, I am looking for Java developers in the Houston area. And it says, great, I've got 50 developers for you. It goes out, it scours LinkedIn, it scours GitHub. You get the idea, it scours the web. But then it says, hey, would you only like to see candidates from these companies? And you can parse out which companies you want to see candidates from. The whole time on the right-hand side of your screen, you've got that list of candidates that is populating. You can see them, you can see their names. And then it'll say, well, are you looking for people who know Java and know some front-end technologies or just back-end Java? So it's really kind of being that co-pilot that when we think of like Microsoft, that co-pilot that's really helping you to actively look through those candidates. All the while, on the right hand of the side of the screen, you've got a listing of those candidates. And as you hover over the candidate, it'll show you their social profile, whether it came from LinkedIn, whether it came from GitHub, whether it came from Stack Overflow. You get it, right? And so this is with People GPT. It's at juicebox.work. No, I know Juicebox sounds like something nefarious, but like this is pretty intense. Now,
Is it
to
free?
that, so I don't know how much it costs. I am on a freemium right now with it. I
Okay.
think that it's free. I hope that I can't imagine it's going to stay free because of the next piece that it does. The next two pieces it does is that if I hover over Chris Murdock and click on Chris Murdock, it does two things. It gives me Chris Murdock's contact information, but it also, using generative AI, creates a message to Chris Murdock. And if you sync it up with Bullhorn or HubSpot or Greenhouse, and those are the AT. I mean, it works with 9 different applicant tracking systems. Barbara Marks and I were playing. Shout out to Barbara. Barbara and I were playing with this week. Like we just got into it like on Wednesday, right? One of the things though that it does is with that generative artificial intelligence, generative AI, it puts into context. It says, Chris, noticed your great work at IQ Partners, wanted to connect with you about the following. And the following is not a message necessarily about your opportunity. Instead, it's a message about things that you've done that it's found on your social profile. It keeps the message really succinct, maybe 750 characters, I think is at most what we counted. Best practices, I say keep it between 600 and 500, but Chat GPT has to be trained, right?
Yeah.
Here's the messed up thing is if I'm like, I don't like that message, and I hit this like little icon that looks like magic sparks at the top, it changes the message dynamically. And then when I move to the next candidate, it's a different message for the different candidate. Dear Barbara, noticed your work, noticed that you have so many years of experience doing this. Wow, that's wonderful. And it takes a different tone. So when I think about messaging sequencing and how people like post on like, sometimes recruiters go out and they say, oh, I'm going to contact every database developer at MongoDB because we're looking for a MongoDB guy or gal. And everybody in the office gets the same message. It's kind of weird.
Yeah.
It's even more weird or even better weird when Jimmy gets one message, Sal gets another message, Andrea gets another message, Monica gets another message, and they're all working at the same organization, right? So like, I don't know how much this tool costs. I'm gonna I don't know how much it costs right now, but like I've been playing with it. You get credits with it. It's definitely something that I think there
I'll
does.
reach out to them. I'll reach out to them and see, if maybe they'll provide like a little link so that we can actually launch that with this podcast. I think we'll give that a shot because it sounds like it really is, because you still have to take a look. I wouldn't. Did you trust the message? Did you change it at all, or did you just kind of? Because
No, I
I
read the
find
message. Yeah.
okay, because I find yeah, you have to read it. Like I had it write a job description for funsies. And a Chat GPT had it write it did not understand employment brand. It didn't incorporate that into the job description, even though I put it in there into the request. And then it added things that weren't relevant, and it taken things out that were relevant. So it took me, instead of taking 45 minutes to write a job description, it took 8 to 10 minutes to really finalize it. But how did you feel about the quality of the messaging? Because I do find that sometimes it can lie. It doesn't necessarily lie, but not knowing how it puts it together. Okay,
Hallucinations,
hallucinations.
AI hallucinations. It was very much a 3.5 model, not like a 4.0, because 4.0, if you think about it, Chris, like there's enough Brian Fink content out there. Like I post every day on Medium. Go find me. It's the Brian Fink on Medium. I've only got like 800 plus sub 800 followers on Medium, but I publish every day on LinkedIn. I publish every day on Medium. It really, if it was using 4, it probably would not have a problem. It would probably be able to buffer out and make the message sound more like a Brian Fink message.
Okay.
So I still have to tinker with it. I've only been playing with it since Wednesday. And it's been a pretty lively week. Uh, the other tool though, when I'm thinking about job descriptions, is I mentioned Notion when we were kind of texting the other
Mhm.
day. Is there's Notion.so and Notion.so. It really, at first I was like, okay, this is another tool that wants to be another Evernote, that wants to be another Apple Notes. And a lot of the startups that I'll talk to, or they'll send resumes via a Notion SO. It's really, it's got a, it's like you took Asana, Trello, and Monday and rolled all those applications into one, and that's Notion. What I found though with Notion is that there's an option with Notion AI, and that's like, and Notion AI is $8 a month. It will summarize whatever notes you put in there. So if I put together like a big long, hiring manager intake form, I can click Notion and it will say, these are the three most important things that a hiring manager needs to look for.
Does
I
it
mean, the
also
hiring managers look
does it
for.
also do the like say transcriptions of recordings? Because like
Um,
Firefly will, take the, be there, transcribe your recorded meetings, and then you can ask it to summarize the meetings. So, or is this just whatever note, whatever you've written and you drop it in, or you'd have to copy and paste the transcriptions into it to get the summary?
I've never used it for the transcription part to consolidate work or to put all this kind of tools all in one, right? So that's I mean, like, what I like about it is it takes those messy notes, it keeps them in my Notion the same way we keep it in my Evernote, so that it can create so that like it'll give me, like, if I was talking to the candidate and we were having a conversation in the beginning. I'm going to continue to use Java as an example. I'm a tech recruiter. Java is to Java as ham is to hamburger. I mean, is to JavaScript. So what we're doing really is, instead of jumping back and forth between the notes that I'm writing, it's able to in real time kind of tease through what I'm talking about and bring my thoughts together in a more cognizant way. But I don't think it does an audio. I do not think it
Okay.
does an audio, like something like an Otter AI or a
The
MetaView
Firefly, yeah,
or a Bright
Firefly, yeah,
Hire.
Otter.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have found, we've been doing some internal testing on the transcription summaries, and we found that Firefly seems to do a better job of transcribing and summarizing. Otter was kind of, it struggled with some things and some accents, but Firefly seems to be, like, right now winning. We're doing a side by side comparison.
Now, Firefly, correct me if I'm wrong. Firefly is the one that runs inside of Zoom,
I can't
or is
remember. I
it
think so.
independent?
I think it's in the, I think it can run in both Teams and Zoom. I think.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
I just really like the fact that, the other thing that Notion does is it makes things actionable for me, right? Like, how many times have you gotten that big long laundry list of things that need to be done by the team? And it just makes things, it breaks things down super easy, talks about what reduction in costs are going to be if you adopt a certain model. It's highly intelligent. Like, I like the fact that it takes the tediousness out of what I'm doing and just like makes an action item list. I mean, like, I'm trying to get my wife to use this in our relationship. Shout out to my wife, I love her. But like to build the honey-do list in an automated fashion, it's really got some powerful attributes to it. And but I want to come back to something you said, is that we started this conversation not necessarily talking about tools, but instead talking about what it is that AI is going to do for
Mhm.
recruiting. And I think it's going to enhance the candidate experience. I think that there's been a lot of chatter thrown at chatbots, but I think that it's going to, and I don't want to talk about chatbots. I want to talk about the engagement that recruiters are going to have with candidates, because they're going to spend more time being more effective, reaching out to people that are a better fit for an opportunity, that it's going to revolutionize sourcing, because we're going to produce candidates that are interested, educated, and qualified at a higher rate to the business, and really accelerate the development of passive candidate pipelines.
So should I change IQTalent's name to IEQ now? IEQ talent, because interested qualified talent. That's so the educated, there's a component there, but removing the tasky stuff, automating in an intelligent way, those tasky things that we have to do as sourcers and as
True.
researchers, sourcers and recruiters. And it gives us more time, recruiters get to spend more time with interviewers, deeper dive conversations with candidates, spending more time with hiring managers, really understanding the business, not just the roles. I think it's going to give us that much more, maybe, this is going to be controversial. Maybe businesses and companies will start to see the in-house recruiting team as less of a cost center and more as a value creation center.
So I want to flip it in a different, like, I agree with
Good.
that. I agree. I
You
agree
can
with that.
disagree with me. It's okay.
No, no, no. Well, the thing is that when people are thinking about like embedded talent or agencies, and as opposed to in the company driven in-house talent acquisition team, I like to think that this is going to, like I said, sharpen the spear. Is that if you're an agency or you're an embedded talent organization, sorry to loop those two together.
No,
If
don't do
you're
it. Do it because we're both at IQ Talent.
right, but here's the piece is like, it's like when I'm talking to Meekoff, so shout out to Adam Meekoff, is that when I'm talking to him, he knows his business better than anybody else. I would put him up against a great internal recruiter any day of the week because he knows the market so well, so specifically when it comes to those different science-based roles. And I think that by accentuating the magnet, if you will, and the pull to those candidates, you're able to have those deeper, more meaningful conversations. And as an embedded organization, as a agency, you're able to react that much quicker. And we were always taught in the agency, Tom kills all deals. Well, internally, Tom kills all deals as well, because if you don't have a great salesperson in place, you're not hitting sales numbers. What should you do? You should go use an agency. If you're struggling to get a product out the door, what should you do? You should leverage somebody who understands that product space and go deep with it. And I think that AI is going to allow experts to go deeper and to create more durable relationships where about the durable relationship where you can be as a talent advisor to both the business and to the candidate, saying to them, what are you going to do for your next 18 to 24 months to build a tour of duty that is successful for this individual and successful for the organization that's trying to attract the individual.
And then that ends up playing into metrics that we're always trying to, maybe we can get to a point where we can start quantifying quality of hire. I mean, we already know ROI, the ROI metrics, cost per hire, time to fill, but it sounds like, do you think that we may actually get to a point where quality of hire becomes measurable? Because right now it's such an esoteric philosophical idea, but do you think AI is going to give us that ability to now, since it's doing a better job of measuring, measuring a person's fit with an organization, fit for a job, but it's even if they're even telling us that they're likely to make a move, it's now the tools are like Seek Out and Hire Easy are trying to say this person is likely to make a move.
So I love the fact that those tools are telling you that, so that we were taught in the agency world, in our first time we were behind the desk, it's like, go for the low hanging fruit, right? Go for the person who's going to make a move. Go for the person who's eager to do that. I talk about a tour duty, 18 to 24 months. I borrow that term actually from Reid Hoffman. He wrote about it in The Alliance. It's an orange book that LinkedIn was trying to distribute in 2014. Really talks about the art of of employee engagement. What you're talking about with Seek Out and Hire Easy now and quality of hire is you're getting into the science of how somebody affects a business and what ROI they produce for the business while they're there doing that tour of duty. I think that if you have that conversation, you're going to slowly decouple TA from HR, and anybody who knows me knows that I don't think they should be coupled together in the first place, but you're going to slowly decouple them, and you're going to instead drive a conversation that should be happening between TA and the CFO in an organization about the actual reciprocal effects, the financial implication, the EBITDA that somebody puts on each hire as that hire is made and as that hire grows in the organization. So yeah, I think it's going to become more quantifiable as we're able to free up the art and move towards the science.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've gotten in front of my team, and most of them were born after I graduated from college. It's not math I really like, but I put up with it. I talked about being thinking of me as a Rolodex, and I immediately saw people pick up their phone and they started looking up.
Rolodex.
They were looking up Rolodex, and I said, if you're looking up Rolodex, you're fired. And somebody said, oh, my grandpa had one of those on his desk, and I just rolled my eyes and just said, damn it, I did it. I don't like to age myself, but you think about what that did, the Rolodex did. It made it easier to find people at your fingertips. And then now everything is so smart. The computer can tell you who to call. You used to have to remember it. You had to remember like who you were connected to, who did you talk to last week. You had to remember all that. What are, these are going to be, that's one of the big benefits. What are some of the issues that we need to keep an eye out for? So one issue that I've noticed with using Chat GPT is that at the bottom it says, you say, I need a list of the top 20 investment banks or boutique investment banks. And it says this information is from September 2021. So, it's not very, that's not up to date, but I've heard that there are others that are more up to date. But what are some of that's an issue. What are some of the issues that you've seen with the
Who owns
technology?
it? Okay, so the first question I'm going to ask you, and this is not because I work for one of the best security organizations in the world, but I want to know who owns the data, right? Like it's a model and we are training it, right? That data has to be housed somewhere. That's why we have a strict rule at McAfee that we're not loading job descriptions, we're not loading resumes, we're not loading anything in a chat GPT to get answers out of it because we don't know where it goes or where it comes from, right? Like we know it comes from the computer, we know it comes from the internet, we know it comes from Microsoft servers, right? Because Microsoft is heavily funded Chat GPT and has kind of circled the wagons in a very Game of Thrones way. Nonetheless, is that we don't know where that data is, and we don't know how secure that data is. We That data is difficult to parse through at best. That's number one. Number two, with 3.5 makes up shit. Okay, there was an attorney who wrote a cease and desist letter and cited some case law from Chat GPT. Well, voila, he sends the letter. The person feels threatened, and they go out and they get a real attorney, and the real attorney looks up the case law inside of Reuters and realizes this case never occurred. It never happened, right? So if you want to write a story about a magical penguin, which I have, that goes on a journey from Antarctica and brings his friends along, I've done this. I did this for my daughter. It was the first use case that I showed my wife how to use Chat GPT. I think it's great at fiction. I do not think that it is going to replace a great tool like Textio and is going to make sure that job descriptions are free of bias and that they're inclusive. And maybe that leads us to another thing. Who's training these models? We talk about AI systems that if they're trained properly, that's a big if. That is a big IF, not an IQ like IQTalent Partners. That's a big IF. If they're properly trained and monitored, they can help reduce unconscious bias in the hiring process. They can make decisions purely based on data. My question is, who's training the data? Is it, for those of you who are listening, my name is Brian. My pronouns are he, him. I am a white male. I already mentioned that I'm 255 pounds. You know that my BMI is a little high. The reality of it is that you're thinking that you can detract using AI to ignore factors like age, gender, and race and use it to lead to a more diverse and inclusive workforce. The data is not there to support that yet.
Yeah. And
The,
it's interesting. I mean, that's the privacy issue. Like that's when you put something in, we're being just as cautious. We're trying to until we kind of know where it's going, we're trying to limit what we use it, what we use it for. But having it, write an email but it's a trust but verify situation. I
yeah,
I I I pop it in, but I still have to verify that it's one, accurate, two, that it actually is saying what I need it to say.
True.
I've received a couple messages, from recruiters I know who used, an AI tool to create the message, and it picked up on some stuff that was actually written in my profile. It was Steve Levy. Shout out to Steve Levy, where we both put information into our LinkedIn profile that was false. Like it says, I am not a full stack engineer. And yet we still got messaging for full stack engineers because people weren't reading our profiles. But the tools were grabbing that information and sending me messages. Hey, I know you're probably looking for your next full stack engineer role. And it was obvious that it was written by a tool. It wasn't written by a person.
So let me ask a different question. We're talking about you being reached out to for a developer role. That happens to me all the time. We joke about it here at McAfee. Like, but we made a joke the other day, is that Barbara and I were talking about that maybe I should take the interview and have Chat GPT give me the answers to the question.
Yeah.
Because and here's the question that I raise, is that it's funny, and it's a
Scary.
reality that we could live in, where we could have an AI whisper in our ear, oh, Java, higher JavaScript, we want to use higher order components using React JS, right? That sounds well and good to a recruiter. That may not be sufficient enough to pass muster with a hiring manager. But we're sending a lot of automated, or we're not sending automated candidate skills assessments and abilities. We do everything in a live environment. What I wonder, though, is do we want to hire engineers who are really good at prompting, or do we want to hire engineers that are really great at coding? Because I can't code, but like my WordPress site, I asked ChatGPT to pick a background that was blue and had some calming effects, and it coded the beach and the mountains, and I was like, oh, this is pretty cool, right? But I just wonder, like, how could you use it to bypass a coding assessment or a coding interview, especially with these natural language processing abilities that exist in a GPT today, in a large language model?
Yeah, now you're just giving everybody something else to fear. Like, why is that person pausing every time they answer a question? So, it's interesting. I actually wrote a quick blog post where actually candidates that want to prepare for an interview could drop in the job description that they're interviewing for and ask for questions from the perspective of the director of engineering or director of sales, and have it actually spit out,
Hell
to
yeah.
prepare. And then you could do the same thing as an interviewer to get the questions. So, and it actually turned out pretty well. It was actually rather interesting to see that. But it's just anything you can do. That this is one of those positive things about being prepared and asking it for help on to prepare for interviews. But the whole concept of having it give you the answers to a question you're asked, the scary factor is so much greater now. Like I started this thinking, oh, there's some privacy concerns, but now actually having to fear candidates answering questions using, essentially BSing their way through an interview now. That's just raised my anxiety level just a little bit. So that's fun.
Well, I mean, look, when we go to these sourcing conferences, like a SourceCon or like an HRTX, right? There are some things that we do, and we have to say we're not stalkers, but yet we're using OSINT technology to find the perfect candidate, right? I think that there's going to be a healthy balance, and I think that by having dialogues like the conversation we had today, that we bring people to the conversation, we make it a bigger conversation, we expand the tent.
Brian, I really appreciate you taking the time. So how do people get a hold of you, and what is it you'd like to plug?
Oh, okay. So I didn't know I was going to be plugging anything, but real quick, if you're looking for me, I'm Brian Fink on LinkedIn. I am the first Brian Fink that will come up. So just look for me at Brian, BrianFink. What I'd like to plug is I did not know that my book was going to be released this week. So talk tech to me. The Non-Technical Guide to Technology Recruiting is available on Amazon, wherever books are sold. That's it. That's what I got.
And we will make sure to include a link in all of our to your book through the Amazon store, and make sure that we get you plugged out there really, really well, man. Well, I
I'm
appreciate
number
you.
two right now. I'm
Number two.
number two.
Well, you're number one in my book, Brian.
Number one in Chris's heart. I love it. Boom, 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 boom.
Adam's going to be upset. Adam McAfee, he's going to be upset he's not number one today. But with that, I want to thank everyone for joining us. And if you have any questions, you don't hesitate to reach out to Brian or myself. Y'all be good. I'll talk to y'all soon.